Hey guys, what is going on? I hope you all are doing well today. Elliot here and welcome back to The Fragrance Well. For today's video, we got a pretty straightforward topic for you. We're going to talk about 8 fragrances that I think they just kind of have that it factor. In other words, they just work. They just work for what they are. I think, for most of these, you can use them for a variety of situations. Not necessarily saying these are like easy to wear fragrances or use them for anything fragrances, but they just, at least from a smell perspective, have something that I think makes them special in terms of their respective houses. Also, I would say they're kind of in a top percentile in terms of being successful, well-crafted releases from the houses and just the fragrance market overall, in my own personal opinion. And really, that's just the gist of it. It's just that simple. These fragrances just do what they do and they do it well. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and get it started. But before we do, as always, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please hit that bell icon and enable notifications so you can be notified when I upload new videos. Let's get into it. Alright guys, to kick it off, we got one from the house of Xerjoff, and this is going to be 40 knots. Xerjoff 40 knots. Let me know down in the comments below, is there anybody that has gotten their nose on this and doesn't necessarily like it? It's another thing if you think you were going to use it for a certain thing and maybe it just doesn't give you that. Well, in that case, get a fragrance that does do that. But does anybody really think that this just doesn't smell good? I think this smells phenomenal. It is a little bit, it has a confusing nature to it, but it's ambery overall, kind of has a little bit of a sweet honey kind of smell, may come off a little bit spicy to some. It does kind of have this kind of airy sea breeze kind of smell, a little bit, maybe not really salty. I do kind of get this like drift woodiness, like dry driftwood smell, like kind of way in the background, just adding a little bit more bite to the scent, but it's mostly just kind of like a sweet ambery fragrance with a slight ozonic kind of vibe, if anything. That's kind of the best way to describe it, I think. This fragrance here, it does kind of have that X factor where it's like, it just works. It's going to be unique to a lot of people, particularly those who are not into fragrances, and it just works. It does. Compliment getting fragrance, long lasting scent if you need something that's going to give you a lot of longevity for a long day or something like that. And the stuff just smells amazing in my opinion. Is this the best that Xerjoff has to offer? I don't necessarily think so, but do I think this fragrance is kind of built its own plateau to stand on its own and kind of separate itself as a great fragrance from the house? I would say yes. That's my personal opinion. You obviously are inclined to disagree, but I think no one can deny that, at least from the masses, if you will, in terms of the fragrance community, this fragrance has kind of cemented itself as something that is special from the house. Once again, from the house of Xerjoff, this is going to be 40 knots. Alright, next one's coming from the house of Cartier. This is going to be Declaration d'un Soir. Cartier Declaration d'un Soir. So, if you like rose, this is one worth checking out if you can find it. I will admit it is a little bit difficult to locate, but I don't think it's discontinued. If it is, someone let me know in the comments, but I don't think it's discontinued. It's just kind of hard to find here in the States. It's probably selling somewhere else, but I did get my bottle at a duty-free store, so take that for what you will. This is a spicy gentleman's rose fragrance. Super classy, as you would expect from the house of Cartier, and this one truly is special in my opinion. Now, if you don't like cumin-like spice, this might be a no-go for you. And matter of fact, cumin, as far as I know, is kind of synonymous with many of the the Declaration line fragrances, especially the Parfum. So it's not overwhelming in this fragrance, but it is present. But yeah, it's basically spicy rose, has a nice bright kind of lemony kind of rose feel to it. I think there is some other citrus notes kind of aiding with that, and it's definitely woody on the dry down, more of like a sandalwood, if you will. Not overly creamy, kind of dry, typical blonde woods, but man, it is well done, well blended, and I think this scent definitely stands on its own as a special one in the Declaration line overall, as well as from the house of Cartier. For the modern gentleman who likes rose fragrances, I think this one is almost a must-have in my opinion. This one definitely has that it factor to me. I can understand if everyone doesn't necessarily agree because, spicy rose with cumin. I know a lot of people don't really like cumin, but I think this stuff is fantastic, and if you like cumin, it's one worth checking out. Once again, from the house of Cartier, this is Declaration d'un Soir. Alright, next one's coming from the house of Orto Parisi. This is going to be Bergamask. Orto Parisi Bergamask. The thing about this fragrance is if you get your nose on it for the first time, in my opinion at least, if you get your nose on it, you might not really think that this fragrance kind of has that it factor. Matter of fact, I would say it's one you definitely have to sample because this fragrance is very sharp. It's very bold, kind of a play on bergamot and musk, if you will. It kind of has a really sharp kind of citrusy bergamot, but doesn't really have a juiciness to it. Doesn't really smell that realistic. It just kind of has the characteristics of bergamot. And same with the musk. The musk in here is a little bit more funky. It's a little bit more of that animalic type musk, or at least it's trying to be. But this fragrance here has that it factor in terms of being very crowd pleasing. It blew my mind how much positive attention the very first time I wore this fragrance. I got a lot of positive attention from it, and I've gotten positive attention from it since then. This fragrance, it's something about the composition. Once it's on your skin and it kind of fills the air, it just works. It has that it factor. So Mega Mare is probably the most popular from this house, but do not sleep on this one, particularly if you're looking for one that kind of has that compliment factor. This one does have it. Once again, from the house of Orto Parisi, this is Bergamask. All right, moving on, we got another one from the house of Cartier. Cartier is getting some love today. This is going to be Pasha de Cartier Parfum. Pasha de Cartier Parfum. You know what, I would say same usage category as Declaration. Modern, gentleman, probably working in an office type, but also you can wear this one for anything and use it in particularly a nice evening setting as well, especially something kind of semi-formal. What is this? It's slightly boozy. It is rich and creamy. It's very balsamic in nature, so it has a little bit of a thick density to it. And the sandalwood and patchouli in this is really nice. I think there's a little bit of benzoin in here as well, kind of adding to that warm nature that this fragrance has. Stuff is amazing in my opinion. If you like balsamic fragrances, this is definitely one I think that is worth getting your nose on. This stuff is just awesome. It has that it factor in terms of it just being an awesome release from the house and a really good flanker to the line overall, modernizing it in a very nice way, but still keeping that classic gentlemanly feel of the original Pasha de Cartier. Once again, from the house of Cartier, this is Pasha de Cartier Parfum. All right, we're moving on to one from the house of Kajal, and this is gonna be Masa. Kajal Masa. Now this fragrance here, in my opinion, is a little bit of a sleeper from the house. When I talk about fragrances that kind of stand on their own, I don't think this one has really quite achieved that status yet, but I do think it is worthy of it because I think this fragrance is very special from the house of Kajal. What is this? It is basically a fruity patchouli fragrance. You have some light apple like fruity notes mixing with some zingy citrus. I think the actual given fruit note is Mirabelle plum. Again, I don't know what Mirabelle plum smells like on its own, but I get like an apple like feel, so that's my experience. And you've got some nice leafy patchouli in here, not overly earthy, not really giving me the chocolatey feel. I think there's probably some vetiver maybe helping to calm that down a little bit, but also adding to the slight green nature that this fragrance has. Does have a little bit of a green smell, kind of synonymous with the bottle. It's gentlemanly, but it's also modern. It's a little bit fun. You can kind of use it for a variety of things, and compliment getting factor, it's definitely here. Also, very long lasting scent if that is important to you. Kajal does a really good job at making some very people pleasing scents, but they tend to be on the very sweet side and also on the floral side. They do those two things very well, and also add in some fruits to that. They do those fragrances very well. This one is a play on the fruits, but it's not as like lively and vibrant as a lot of their other fragrances are. It's a little bit more tamed down, and also that green nature that this fragrance has. I don't know if I've gotten my nose on too many fragrances that have somewhat green-like notes in them, but this one kind of steps into that. I'm not saying they don't have them, I'm just saying I haven't experienced them, but this one does it very well, and this is an amazing scent, and it definitely has that it factor, at least for me. Get your nose on it if you haven't. Let me know what you think about it. Once again, from the house of Kajal, this is Masa. All right, next one's coming from the house of Dior. This is going to be Dior Homme 2020. Dior Homme 2020. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that don't have to convince that this fragrance has that it factor, because I know this is a favorite of a lot of people. We've kind of moved on past the whole, oh, it's not Dior Homme Iris hate that came out when it first came out. So we've moved on from that, right? So people know how good this stuff is. I mean, clean, fresh, woody, gentlemanly, classy, modern. I mean, you got a very heavy kind of cedar wood coming from Isogama Super, or at least that's what's perceived to be in this fragrance. I think it's pretty much common knowledge at this point. A little bit of musk to soften it up a bit. LME resin to give it kind of a glue, if you will. This is such good stuff, and like I said, it's fresh as well, so it just kind of works for the modern day man, giving you those elements that work so well with so many fragrances. I get pretty good longevity out of this. Some people say they don't. I don't know. I do think you can go anosmic to this, so I do think you have to consider that, particularly with that Isogama Super. I do think that is something that people can go anosmic to. There's a compliment factor to this scent. I don't think a whole lot of people talk about, or at least I haven't heard them talk about it, but this fragrance absolutely has that it factor. I can't even remember if this was a blind buy for me, if I had gotten my nose on it. It might have been a blind buy. I honestly don't remember. But I know I like this scent from Jump Street. And at that time, I had actually never smelled the Dior Homme Irish fragrances, so I could not have that bias. But there's no denying, especially with me actually liking the sport version, the flanker to this better than this, there's no denying that this scent has kind of cemented itself as a solid choice that definitely has that it factor. And it doesn't smell like everything else out there, which I commend. Once again, from the House of Dior, this is Homme 2020. All right, we're gonna move on to one from the House of Zaharoff. This is gonna be Second Soul. Zaharoff Second Soul. Now, I have intentionally not talked about this fragrance very much lately because it is sold out from the house. They're not making any more, so that's gonna make it very hard to find. You would probably have to buy it direct from someone. So I don't talk about it too much more on the channel because, it's something you really probably can't get if you don't know someone that has it. But I've decided to just give it some shine today because it's such a great fragrance. It absolutely has that it factor to me. If you're talking about modern day barbershop fragrance masterpiece, I'm calling it that. Not everybody else has to agree with it being having the masterpiece name to it, but I'm gonna call it that because it is that good to me. I mean, you have all the classic elements of a barbershop fragrance. You've got spices, you've got aromatics, you've got a little bit of sweetness in there, somewhat leathery like accords, but there's also some booziness to this. There's added resins, adding another layer of depth. I love the myrrh that is in here. Fresh nature of the fragrance, a little bit of juniper playing into that. I mean, it is a complex scent that is crafted to perfection, in my opinion. And if you like barbershop fragrances, this one is that one. I'm just gonna call it like I see it. Longevity factor is there, compliment factor is there. I mean, it has that it factor, if you will. Again, I apologize if this is something you're curious about and it's hard to find, but I just wanted to give it some shine because I hate the fact that it's just kind of sitting on my shelf right now because I can't give it a lot of shine for the channel. And as a result, I don't really wear it as much because I gotta wear the stuff that I talk about on my channel to make sure I'm giving you guys my full experience. But this is one of those ones I truly enjoy. And also, you don't need a lot of sprays. I've actually worn this plenty of times. As you can see, there's not much juice going. And when I say plenty of times, I mean for a guy who wears, a different fragrance almost every day. Once again, from the House of Zaharoff, this is Second Soul. All right, and last but certainly not least, coming from the House of Hermes, we've got Terre de Hermes Eau Givree. Terre de Hermes Eau Givree. So what is the it factor with this one? Same as all the other ones, basically. It just works. Now, if you like the smell of grapefruit, this fragrance is almost a must, in my opinion. Basically smells like iced over grapefruit juice. Has a note of citron, a little bit of a Sichuan pepper, just adding a slight spicy element to it. There's vetiver, of course, and also some juniper kind of adding to the cooling nature of this fragrance. If it's a hot day and you need something classy, this fragrance will work. And even if it's not hot out and you just want something that kind of has what this one has to offer, it'll work too. I wouldn't say it's like a compliment monster type of fragrance, but I don't think anybody's gonna complain about smelling this unless they just absolutely hate the smell of grapefruit. But the thing is, the grapefruit nature of it does kind of calm down. It gets a little bit more like juniper heavy and kind of just clean vetiver heavy. And once the fragrance kind of dries down after a while, so even then I would say that's probably not gonna be something you have to worry about. But this fragrance is amazing. Blew me away the first time I got my nose on it. I know a lot of you guys had the same reaction. I know this fragrance is popular within the community. Very successful release from the house. Very successful and great flanker addition to the Terre de Hermes line. And in my opinion, all those fragrances have that it factor in terms of just being very well done and successful releases from the brand. Once again, from the House of Hermes, this is Terre de Hermes Eau Givree. Alright guys, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know down in the comments below what are some fragrances you have in your collection that you know they just simply work. They just have that it factor. You know if you wear them, they're going to achieve what you need them to achieve for your daily wearing experience. Looking forward to seeing what you guys have to say. Thanks again for watching all the way until the end. I really do appreciate you guys. Please remember to be well and smell well. And I'll see you in the next episode of The Fragrance Well. Have a good one.